Welcome to Email After Hours by SenderScore, powered by Validity.
We're your hosts. My name is Guy Hansen.
And I'm Danielle Gallant, and this is Email After Hours.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Email After Hours. Now, before we launch into the main part of our conversation, most of you will be aware that Danielle is my regular co-presenter. She's not here today. She's feeling a bit under the weather. But we've got a very able stand-in, and those of you that joined us a couple of episodes ago will remember Laura Christensen very, very well indeed. One of my favorite Validity colleagues, charming, insightful, and Laura, it's just a real pleasure to have you back on Email After Hours today. We didn't know you were coming back so soon, but great to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Guy. I'm happy to be back so soon.
A real pleasure. Anyway, moving into today, imagine this. 1 out of 3 of your business's transactions coming from your email channel. What a dream, right? For today's guest, it's not a dream, it's a reality. Everyone say hello to Nicholas Greatrex, Chief Marketing Officer for TFG Brands London. With a background in customer loyalty and insight, he's on a mission to deliver winning customer experiences that encourage long-term brand loyalty.
Yes, but delivering these VIP experiences across multiple brands and communication channels, that's a tough task. So over the next 30 minutes, we're going to talk customer loyalty, omni-channel marketing experiences, list growth, and much more. Plus, Nick has also been running tests to see how human versus AI emails fare against each other. We're really looking forward to hearing more about his findings. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to speaking to you both today.
And likewise. Now, before we get into the meat of our conversation, we always like to kick off with a couple of icebreakers. So, Nick, from my side, when it comes to email marketing, what's your pet peeve? What's that one thing that you wish, senders would just do better or perhaps not do at all?
For me, I think that's got to be emojis or overuse of emojis, especially in the subject lines of emails. I think it's something that tends to be quite casual and personal and therefore better off in other places than the email really. So that's my pet peeve.
Yes, I would fully agree with that. And when the emojis don't align with the subject line and you're left trying to figure out what they're trying to say, even worse.
Now, before we talk specifics about email, can you give us a quick overview of TFG Brands and just tell us a little bit about your email marketing programs? And specifically, how does your business think about the value of the email channel?
Well, TFG London, of where I work for, is part of G, which is the Pashini Group based in South Africa. We're TFG London, so we're a group of UK brands, 3 question brands in Whistles, Hobbs and Phase 8, and then 1 brand that we launched last year, which is Inside Story. We're a home brand. We operate in a hybrid structure of group and brand. So we have group level roles like my own, and the email or CRM teams are at group as well. Although the people who put together the emails for each of the brands work at the brand level. So that's our setup. We work very closely with each of the brands in terms of building out the content and what we're going to be promoting within those messages. And the brand teams will help us to pull together the creative and make those emails look as good as they do before we make sure they go to the right people.
Nick, I have to ask, so you mentioned that TFG comprises multiple brands, which we know from experience with senders can lead to some pretty big challenges when it comes to email. There's possible list overlap, overmailing, and personalization. We sometimes see brands actually end up competing with one another. So does that resonate with you? And if so, what do you find presents the greatest difficulty in engaging with your subscribers across all of your multiple brands?
Well, yeah, absolutely, that there's going to be competition between the 3 brands. And I think if you look at it from a customer's point of view, with there being the 3 premium women's wear brands, is going to resonate with the same customer. But that's been, the brands have been around for over 40 years. And I think that's always been the case. So when the customer's looking for something, they're looking for that right outfit or dress that they're looking for, then yes, they'll be looking at each of the three brands, but they could be doing that organically online, or they could be coming through each of those email channels. So I think the competition is something that we just embrace, because before the brands became part of the group, they still sent out their own communications to their customer bases. And the same person would have been on one or multiple lists between those brands. And it's not just us that they're lists that they're subscribing to. They're subscribing to our competitors out there in the mix. And therefore, it's just about being relevant to that customer. Our metrics that we measure for each brand are the same, and are the same as what they were before they became part of the group. So we're still looking at increasing those open rates, getting the high click-through rates through, and that revenue per customer email sent. So it's the same for us, whether it's a competitor outside of our group or one within it.
Some brands that we work with will take a progressive approach to getting people to sign up to the different channels, maybe acquire the email address first and then try and get the mobile number as a follow-up later down the line. Do you think there's value in getting customers to actually opt into all of your channels at once?
I think there's an efficiency to that. If the customer's signing up for something, then yeah, they might want to give you their phone number as well as their email address. And to do that, this can be quite efficient. But it could also be that actually, if you can give that option to somebody in the account section later, that they can, when they've built up that loyalty and that engagement and they want to hear about those offers, then actually there's giving the customer that option to sign up later to those other areas can work just as well. What we tried to do is to make CRM and newsletter signups to be as useful as possible, to give a real point of difference to why they want to be part of those email lists. So if they start to see value from being signed up to our newsletters, they'll start to look out for those communications. And if they see that they can get something that they can't get elsewhere, that then provides that incentive to sign up to SMS or to direct mail.
Nick, I have to ask, in that same vein, with people opting into multiple channels at once, with all of the brands that you have, does the team see a risk of actually over communicating with your subscribers, or how are you avoiding having this happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the pitfalls of CRM communications, or just in general, is over communicating. And you can see the brands that do that, where you just get email after email into that inbox. And for us, it's about making sure that we're resonating with that customer. If that customer is clicking and responding to every email that we sent, then fine, there's no reason to reduce that. That isn't over communication. What we are doing is we're listening out to those customers who don't engage so often, and we will throttle the amount of communications that somebody gets sent based on how they engage with us. So if we are finding that somebody is only buying twice a year, there's not really much need to send them 4 messages a week. We'll look at what they are, how they're responding to what we're sending to them, and then we'll adjust it accordingly. That helps keep customers engaged. It also means that we have to work a little bit harder in terms of whether the quality of the communication, whether we want to just be pushing the promotions or the new product launches, or even something that's a bit more content related. One of the recent things that we've been looking at is how we can use content a bit more to engage with the customer. So when we're looking at the value of a customer or their propensity to spend, what we've found is that a customer who engages with emails without a transaction is more likely to buy in the future. And actually, that's kind of opened up for us an opportunity to not follow the product and promotional email path like we always used to, and be more relaxed about sending out a communication to somebody about content or about something that is not directly related to a sale. Because we see if the customer engages with that email, then they're more likely to come back in the future. That's been a really useful learning for us, because it's just opened up so many possibilities about what we can send.
Really interesting. And of course, content is also shaped by the channel, isn't it? In our experience, SMS content is very different to what customers might be expecting in their email inboxes. Can you tell us a little bit about how your communication style vary between channels and how you strike the right balance there?
Yeah, so with SMS, you need to be to the point. You're limited in how many words you've got. You don't have the images to go with it. So it's very much a transactional piece. It's a call to action. And therefore the tone of voice suits that. It's useful for putting forward any kind of exclusive or preview or anything that's time sensitive to get them to communicate through. Whereas, as I was saying, with email, you've got so much more choice in how you can communicate. You can soften the tone, or you can allow yourselves to be more personable and friendly, because this email can be as much about gaining that engagement of the customer as it can about converting them to buy something. We often use the higher value or the more aspirational products that we have as the hero images within our email content, uh, so that it engages the customer and it gets them to feel inspired to click through onto the website and see what they want to buy. Now, they don't often buy that product that they see in that communication, but it's that gets them booked. And we use that same kind of communication strategy when we're doing billboard ads or anything that is off page tends to be our limited ranges. The higher price point pieces, the standard or the signature piece that people will want to aspire to, and that will bring them in. We find online actually that what people browse compared to when they go in store and what they buy is rarely the same thing. And therefore, they will find something perhaps even a different color, but a different style. But the trigger for getting that customer into the store was what they were browsing online. And I think with email, it's the same thing. Is if you can trigger that visit to the website or that visit into the store through showing something aspirational, you can then convert them on something that meets their needs in terms of price or what they're buying for. So yeah, there's more flexibility there. And I think direct mail sits into that space too, where we try and make it as aspirational as possible.
So you mentioned paying close attention to your customers' behavior online, in store. And fun fact, you've actually had more people sign up for email in store than online, which is incredible. What
Yeah.
is it that you are doing to encourage them to provide your email addresses? Are you willing to share your secret?
The main one is actually giving the customer the e-receipt. And especially in the fashion world and in the clothing world, returns are always very high. When customers buying something, especially if they don't have the time to try it on, there's always that chance of the return. So the receipt is a great way to get somebody to sign up. That's a big one. And then the other side of that is we have an initiative within our team, which is our Compelling CRM initiative. And that is about making the newsletters something that customers want to be a part of, because they can get something that they can't get anywhere else. So our Compelling CRM means that you get exclusive offers or early access to products. And it just gives that point of difference that you simply can't get if you're not signed up. We use that within stores as well, and make sure that messaging is really clear when you walk into the store, or that our colleagues at the checkout will help explain that to the customers. And it gives them the customer that reason to sign up to our CRM program. That's something that we've been trying and working really successfully over the last couple of years. And it seems to be working just as well in store. Given that we've been doing it so much longer online, means that the opportunity to grow is a bit less than the almost standing start we've had in stores. So I think our growth rate may slow down over the next few months.
I agree. I'm a big fan of e-receipts, and I've actually produced quite a lot of DMA research over the years showing that email addresses acquired in store are typically more primed to engage and come with a higher propensity for loyalty, is what we've seen in the research. Does that align with what you've seen? How do your subscribers behave? Or should I say, how does their behavior vary depending on how they were acquired?
Well, that thought process took us down an interesting journey, because as Laura mentioned, we've seen a big increase in the number of customers signing up through stores, but we still are, and we definitely were, measuring success through CRM, through that linear email to website to shopping cart transaction. And actually, given that the size of our base is now much more swinging in the direction of stores, that journey isn't relevant anymore. What we see is that the revenue per email sent is lowest for that store customer. But that's because they're following a journey that isn't such a linear journey as that you see with the online customer. So what we see is about 3.5% of customers who are store customers who receive an email go on to buy. With the online customers, it's 5.5%. And with the omnichannel customers, it's 7%. So actually, there is that online journey that exists through that store customer, but it's still much more linear when it's online. And it's still much more profitable if it's an omnichannel customer, if they're buying from both stores and online. What we see is that the customer coming to the store already has that propensity for loyalty. Online customers are much more transient. They have the ease of comparison that you can't get within stores. And also, you don't get the point of difference through the experience. Getting to know the store colleagues, getting to walk around the store and touch and feel the product. And actually your choice is reduced. There aren't as many stores on the high street as there are shops online. So that loyalty kind of comes embedded from that store experience, and that increases the chance of the customer coming back again. We've trialed and looked around with clienteling in the past to try and encourage that journey from the customer to get them back into the store, and use the same mechanics that we use in email to get that store-only customer to say, this is now available in your local store, come and see it. And that works really well. But actually, we don't need to go down the full clienteling route. We can get a lot of that same behaviors through the CRM strategy. And it's made us think really differently about not only how we communicate through email, but also how we're communicating through the website, so that the messages aren't trying to push such a linear journey anymore. The measurements also are no longer about click-through rates. I talk about revenue per email sent is something that we look at. But even beyond that, our most loyal customers will visit the website 5 times before they buy, which is not great for our conversion rates because they're making 5 separate visits, but it shows a distinct behavioral difference between a brand new customer who, if they are going to visit, or they are going to purchase, they'll visit twice. So the more loyal you get, the more times you're engaging with the content. And the online's a good example because we can measure those five sessions, those 5 visits into that before they convert. But the same kind of behavior is happening through email and CRM. They're absorbing that content. They're seeing what's coming in. They're looking for something that's new, and they're coming back time and time again. And it's just making sure that we're there ready for them when they're ready to buy. We think the same kind of approach is there for the store customer too. And if we're not making it apparent that those products are relevant to that store, then we're missing a trick. Because if that customer, we try and we want them to become omnichannel customers, but some customers prefer to buy in store only. So if we're not catering to that messaging, I think that's where personalization comes in. Because we're not catering towards that, we're missing an opportunity. So more and more, we're having to add personalization into our CRM communications to make sure that the messages that we're sending out are tailored to what that person wants.
So you've talked about creating this ideal experience for customers to build loyalty. I want to talk a little bit about the ideal sending day, because I've heard you refer to Sundays as the golden day for email, which is definitely not something we're used to hearing. I think the running standard is Tuesdays at 10 a.m. So for you, what makes Sundays so effective, and how is it that you came to learn this?
So I think we came to learn this because as we sent out communications, we just saw the higher response coming through on those Sundays. One of the great opportunities that we have as being part of the group is that we have 3 different brands. Now we have 4 with Inside Story with our home brand, but we have the opportunity to test on a factor of 4. And where we find something work, we can then roll it out across all of the brands. And it means that our opportunity to test these things is greater than I've been able to do with single brand businesses. But so what we saw is that there is this greater engagement on a Sunday, especially Sunday morning. And I don't think that's, I mean, as you say, Tuesday at 10 a.m. is the traditional peak point. It must just be our market. It's a premium product, so it's that consideration that takes time. It's not something that you'll go in and buy straight away. We find many customers will shop up into our brands. It will be their signature piece in their wardrobe. or it'll be for a special occasion or an event. It might not be everything that is in that wardrobe is from our brands. And therefore, that consideration's a bit longer, and perhaps that leans towards that Sunday, that day when you're not working and you can sit and you can browse. And rather than it being functional because you need a t-shirt or you need a pair of jeans, it's something that's a bit more of indulgence. And therefore, it works better for a weekend. Whatever the case that we see, we've found that launching any event or promotion, Sunday's the day to do it. And get it out early on a Sunday, and that's where we see the big spikes. And then we preview our events on Sundays and we launch them on the Mondays. And that's just seemed to be much, much bigger than what we used to do before, which actually wasn't Tuesdays, it was Thursdays. We were aligning it with the stores actually, so that it was for that weekend promotion. Get those first couple of days at the end of the week, and then the weekend will be what pushes the promotion through in the stores. However, given how much our email database has grown and the engagement with that database has grown, the amount of revenue that we take for emails through those promotions just is huge compared to what we take through in stores. And online, similarly, is much bigger than in stores through those promotions. And therefore, we took the decision, rather than to tailor it to our store estates, to tailor it to what worked best for the customer, which was Sunday.
I think your comment about consideration is really interesting. And I've thought about this before. I've sometimes likened it to the sort of Sunday newspaper supplement idea, where it's just that day where people do have a little bit more time to sit and read all the content and take time to make a decision. I think you're spot on there. Now, we're talking about optimizing for best sending day and time. And I think we understand it's a great personalization tactic. You're using first-party data based on behavior that your subscribers have actually demonstrated to you. What else? How else do you achieve great personalization that actually ensures the ongoing relevance and resonance with your audience?
Well, look, I think first is to try and not overcomplicate it and over guess what the customer wants to do. I think listening to the actions of the customer is really important. So we will incorporate what customers purchased in the past to what they'll see again. And also we will flag up if somebody's in market. And by in market, that means that they've been on the website or perhaps done something that's triggered an event that says that they are currently looking for something. And therefore, if they're browsing a particular category, then using that information to upweight the products from that category and communications is what we'll do. So we that's how we use personalization. It's just listening to what the customer's doing and then responding in that similar way. I mentioned before that we use those signature pieces and those limited edition collections to be able to inspire the customer. And we do use that, but we also make sure that there's enough content in there of something that will be what that customer wants. We're not quite there at the place yet where if they only buy green, or very, very popular in the UK and Ireland, or never buy green, which is Hong Kong and China, then that we are making sure that that's incorporated into our messages. But we're looking at putting in all of those signals. And if somebody likes to expose the shoulder or have it covered or have something that's floral or patterned or animal prints, and if there's a preference within their previous history, incorporating that in, that's what we want to go next. So I scare my CRM teams by saying I want us to get to a point where there's no such thing as our BAU emails that's curated. So I want us to get to a point where those messages are all taken from different content blocks based on what that customer's previous purchasing behavior has been. And therefore, rather than building an email, we're building a series of content slots. And then that's how we become fully personalized. And I think that when we get there, we'll end up with a much more relevant experience for the customers.
We can't have today's conversation without at least touching on artificial intelligence. And in our prep call, we actually discussed how you've been using AI as part of your email split testing. And you've got some really interesting learnings when it comes to generative AI versus human-only emails. Give us some insight. What have you discovered?
Well, I think this ties together what I've been saying before with the personalization and making sure that we are giving that customer that relevant experience through to having that unique brand identity. And I think that if you want to give that relevant experience, you can't just create one email and send that out. That's not personalized and that's not relevant. And however, if everything becomes completely automated, do we have the control to make sure that that is still within the identity that we want it to be? And I think it will be there, and it just requires configuration, but there's a journey for us to go on. So what we've been looking at is ensuring technology is at the stage where you can have tone of voice that comes across quite well. We've been using subject line automation for a little while. And whenever we put something that is AI generated versus human generated, the AI tends to come out on top. And what we've found work really well for us is our dynamic content emails. The ones that are showing that customer what they want, it always work a lot better than something that's curated. And that is what's leading that journey that I was talking about getting rid of the BAU and replacing it with content slots. And therefore, I think if we can have that blend, and I think as we move forward, that blend will probably disappear at some point, where as humans, we create those content slots, and then the machine decides which ones to serve to which people. We'll start to see better and better engagement. And then from us as consumers, we'll start to see emails with much, much more relevant content that we're looking for, that will get us to where we want to do much quicker.
I would love, just for a second, you're talking about testing and everything that you're doing to create these relevant experiences, to learn from them. I want to go back to what you were saying about loyalty. Just in the past year, I think more so than ever before, have had an increasing number of clients coming to me asking about loyalty programs and what they should be doing for a subset of VIP customers. But you actually don't take this approach. So I would love for you to just talk a little bit about how you're incorporating loyalty into your regular marketing email campaigns. I love this term that you use, loyalty by stealth. So can you share some examples with us about what that looks like for your audience?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we don't have a loyalty team. Our CRM team is our loyalty team. And it's the insights team sits within the same function. So we haven't actually split the two out. And some of that is based on necessity. Given where we sit within the market, our average frequency is fairly low. Given our price point, it means that we haven't got a huge amount of customers to be able to take the full benefits of some of those loyalty mechanics, like an app, for example, or subscriptions, although we think that we can find an opportunity there. So my background has been loyalty, and I came to TFG and there wasn't very much at all in terms when it came to CRM communications. And I looked at how we could quickly implement some of those loyalty mechanics into our CRM programs without having to do a full-blown scheme, which would be time-consuming and expensive. So loyalty by stealth for us just means using the mechanics of loyalty within our CRM. And that can be quite simple, from your welcome programs, your trigger messaging, or it could be from lapse prevention, etc. And using those programs as part of the CRM structure. Again, using those different content slots to put in those messages means you can achieve a new product launch at the same time as reactivating or even preventing a customer from lapsing. So that's a really strong tactic that we use to add those content slots in with those loyalty messaging. And then the other one is actually just bringing in the loyalty mechanics of, it could be a promotion. As I said before, it's actually very similar to compelling CRM. It's those previews that we add in at the beginning of a promotion. It's that early access to something, that exclusivity. We're adding the value adds to that customer journey too, which could be free next day delivery, or it could be a gift with purchase. And all of those elements that you add into the loyalty scheme doesn't necessarily need a loyalty scheme wrapped around it for us to offer it. We can offer it through CRM. And I think there's a win-win there. But one, it keeps the customer more loyal. Two, it's a much more efficient way of us acquiring customers than it is to use other channels. And then actually it does then bring on to that opportunity of where that next step sits.
That is really, really clever. This has been such a great conversation. And gosh, I feel like I'm back at school. I've just been jotting down notes as we've gone through it. You've been so generous with your knowledge and insights that you've shared with us today. But we've also got to start bringing things to a close. And that brings us to our closing quickfire questions. And Laura, have you got one for Nick to finish up today?
I do. So, Nick, my question for you is, if you could time travel and back in time and give your younger self one bit of email marketing advice, what would it be?
Yeah, great question. I think the bit of advice I'd give is just keep it simple. I think if you always go back to that point of what's relevant to the customer, what do they want? And essentially, they want to find something that appeals to them at a price they want to spend for. Don't overcomplicate it. Keep to that piece of trying to make it relevant to the customer, trying to make sure that what you're doing for that customer makes it as easy and as relevant for them and enjoyable for them to make that purchase. Then you're going to do okay. I think where you try to start to become too clever or to overcomplicate things, you'll lose people. So keep it simple.
That's a great point to finish on. Thank you so much. We'll see you again in another 2 weeks. Bye for now. Be sure to tune in next time and hit subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And don't forget to visit senderscore.com for loads more great resources to help you become a stronger sender.
To all you sleepless senders out there, thank you for joining us after hours, and see you next time.